Imagine it's Saturday morning. You wake up bright and early, ready to get the day started and to find out what adventure you can get into. Your very first stop is the barbershop. You're greeted with laughs, handshakes, head nods, and maybe some criticism on how young folks dress these days. The routine sports conversations. Will the Lions win the Super Bowl this year? Will the Pistons win another championship in our lifetime? Yeah, you know those conversations that get so high energy that all you can do is laugh. When the pandemic started, I was unsure when I would have those experiences again. I missed the raw conversation, the bluntness the older guys in the shop possess. I miss having that safe space. Now, we're back, and everyone in the shop is vaccinated. The topics of the shop have been solely about the pandemic and how we need to get more of the younger generation vaccinated as well. And you know they kept it real. But it's all coming from a genuine place, from brother to brother.
How long did you all wait to get a haircut until everything was shut down or back open or whatever? How long did y'all wait, or did you not cut your hair?
Well, so me and him, we're actually fortunate enough to kind of know how to cut each other's hair. So we've been able to learn over the years how to cut hair just kind of through experience. So fortunately, we did have that. But for those that didn't have that option, how was that?
It was rough. The good thing we was in the house.
Yeah.
Because I definitely went a nice, probably half the year, and then even then it felt weird. I actually had to, we were talking about switching barbers. I had to switch barbers because I went one time and he wasn't there. And I'm like, all right, cool, maybe he just chilling or whatever. I go again, wasn't there. So I go the third time and I'm talking to my barber. I'm like, Cliff, where Kelly at? Man, his wife told him he had to stop cutting hair. And it was because of the way that the virus was taking off. He has probably 5 or 6 kids. He had just had a kid. And so his wife had got to the point where she had literally asked him, can you stop cutting hair? Because I was willing to pay him extra money, you can come sit in my garage maybe, just because I needed a haircut. But that's how crazy it was. Literally, my barber had retired. He doesn't cut hair anymore. He retired from cutting hair just because of how the virus turned out. So it was kind of unfortunate. Had to switch.
I mean, that story though, that kind of thing happened in a lot of places, not just barbershops. A lot of business, especially a lot of business owned by Black people, that had to either change, transform, or many of them, 40% of them, closed altogether. But I think, first of all, just on the how long you got a haircut, didn't have a haircut, if you look at some of them times I was on TV in April and May and June and July, it was tough. It was real tough. I saw a picture the other day. It was rough. it was real tough. But I think, I'm glad as we come back, we got to think about, what we can do to make that comeback real. And for me, it's just the most important piece of that is people actually getting vaccinated. Man.
Right.
Yep. And so I'm just curious, for y'all, what y'all vaccine story was. I'll be honest, it was something that I didn't hesitate with, but a lot of people had a lot of questions. So I'm just curious,
I think, well, first, I'm just glad to be here, right? Because it was it felt like a bad movie. During the height of COVID, every week someone else was passing, and it was people super close to you. You're man, what is going on? And we could just never get out of the bad movie until we got a vaccine, right? And so, I didn't hesitate either. My haircut piece, it took me about 4 or 5 months into the summer, and then I finally got a hold of my barber. I was like, hey, I need a haircut, man. I had the afro going out. It was hair going every which way, curls this way. And my wife was like, yeah, it's time. Because I said, you know what, at least I can do is buy some clippers. So I bought some clippers and I cut my beard a little bit, but I did not want to mess around with my hairline. So I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not pushing the hairline back. I'm not doing any gaps, no zigs, no zags, none of that. So, but yeah, once I got that haircut, I felt like a new man. I was walking down the street with my own theme music, you know, because that's how a haircut makes you feel, right? You know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, for me it was, I got to wait long enough to see if my beard could actually connect. And so it was several months for me. And I remember talking to my barber. He has a barbershop in his own home actually, and so it's a little bit easier for him. But I remember hitting him up like, man, when are you going again? He was like, not until it's safe. And at that point, the vaccines hadn't really come to fruition. And so it was just like this endless sort of wait. And that same sort of feeling carried over to sort of like life. Like, man, this feels like endless. So, similar to you all, when the vaccines became available, it was no hesitation on my part. So in addition to seeing how many people had got impacted by it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, it was, I think being in medicine, it was definitely a different experience. Starting off, for me, my intern year in internal medicine, it was the fall of 2019, coming in, expecting a lot of, to learn a lot of things. But then come spring of 2020, second half of intern year, COVID hits. And I'm like, wow, okay, so.
You got like an extra 5 years of education.
Yeah. So that was like, okay, speed up of experience and knowledge and everything like that. It was like, it was an experience. That's what I can really say. At that time, similar to what you all have said, people, businesses closing down, things like that, even for us in the medical profession, older for physicians that had, of course, their own personal health concerns that were, toward really the end of their retirement in any way, just kind of pushed them on into retirement. It was just it was sad to kind of see them go earlier than they wanted to, because working alongside them was always, a good thing. But it was definitely well understood. I think that early on for us, there was a lot of uncertainty as far as, because this was like a newer strain of a virus. There's a lot going on. And there was a lot of uncertainty as far as, because there was no set treatment plan, things like that. But like you all said, now that the vaccine has come through, for me, it was a big relief, because for the first time I felt really comfortable in like public spaces again, comfortable not always having to look over my shoulder and have a mask on and like, oh no, am I going to catch something, because that fear was very, very real. Even, being in the hospital at that time when the vaccine wasn't present, the fear was still very real. I mean, we still showed up and did our job, but the fear was there, being almost like it felt like being face to face with COVID itself, the fear was definitely very, very real. And the vaccine has changed a lot of things.
No, I would say it was extremely hard on me initially, because my wife, Candace, she's an emergency room doctor. She was pregnant at the height of COVID. My son was just born 4 months ago. So, it was like touch and go. As a father, as a husband, I just didn't know what to do. I was scared. I just was praying to God every night, like, I hope that she's okay. And then, halfway through the pregnancy, she had stopped working because, obviously she was pregnant. But, it was just a scary situation. You just didn't know what to expect, and you're wiping down everything. I found myself wiping down everything. I was the king of Clorox, right? I'm wiping the handles, because I got a 2-year-old daughter, and she touches everything too. So it's just like double combination of, just over anxiety, really. And it's funny that we're in a barbershop. I actually manage a national barbershop competition. And so we were just about to kick off a barbershop challenge in Los Angeles that had to be shut down a week later because of COVID hitting. And so, the other thing that people don't realize is that how COVID has affected the economy, right? A lot of those small businesses like barbershops, they're struggling, because you can't cut hair. Yeah. And so, that is just a tough reality, that a lot of people face during that time. But now that we have a vaccine, people can actually engage in person and do those type of activities and operate their business.
I'm curious about that because, we have to, I'm sure that all of you have had conversations with people about the vaccine, right? About convincing somebody. Like I remember for me, the one I remember the most was with my plumber guy. He's a young guy about my age, black guy from the D, and his girlfriend, excuse me. I don't want to get in trouble. His girlfriend. his girlfriend. She is a home healthcare nurse, and so she had gotten vaccinated. But he was like, "Man, you gonna get that shot, G? Like for real, you gonna get that?" He was like asking me. Right. And I told him, I was like, "Man, yes." but why? So for me, like I lost a lot of people. I lost 27 people in my life to the virus, and for me, it was like. I don't know what would happen if I got it. I don't know what happened if my wife got it. But I'm pretty confident that this shot has saved my life and it helped me not infect other people. So I'm just curious like what y'all said to other people. If you had to convince somebody, because I'm sure, especially y'all, if somebody looked to you and was like, should I get this? Like somebody had that conversation with you, right?
That's a good point. I think I was at this place where I wasn't sure if I was comfortable enough to push it on people. And I wouldn't necessarily say push it on people, but where I'm from, like I'm from the west side of the city, so a lot of people were just like skeptical in general about medicine, not even just like the virus, but before this, just skeptical about going to the doctor, all this other stuff. And so I work in education, so in terms of like getting the vaccine, I'm in schools in and out, and then similar to you, I just had my daughter 4 months ago. So my wife, similar type of situation where I wanted to feel safe and everything, but in terms of the conversations I was having with people, I would just prioritize the safety. Like it was always like, I want y'all to feel comfortable around me, and I want to feel comfortable around y'all. So this is a way that we can do that. And especially like for my older folks, my aunties, my grandmas, all this, all this stuff. It was always about, how can we feel the most safe about each other? So like those are usually like my talking points. And then, at the end of the day, I will always leave people with like, make the best decision that's for you. I don't want you walking away, oh man, he about to come talking about the, because, that'll turn some people off eventually. But it was always a thing like let's just prioritize the safety. And, I know we got a lot of myths about obviously medicine and the mistrust between like vaccines and especially black folks considering history and everything. But yeah, it was just always pushing like the safety aspect. I want y'all to feel comfortable around me.
Early on in the spring, we definitely, I think one of our first priorities, we kind of organized with a lot of our co-residents and attendings and things. We tried to first start off by doing a lot of Zoom panels because we figured obviously everything was locked down. We have to reach the people where they are, which is usually at home or usually not at work during that time. So that was the first thing. We found those to start to kind of eventually be helpful. But my biggest thing when it comes to the vaccines is, even when I talk to my patients every single day, I express to them that, of course, I understand what your concerns are in regards to the vaccine. And I understand why you have that fear, because, all of this is, there's a history behind it, but all of this is, not everybody has the understanding like that. The medical literacy is what I'm learning about the process of medicine, right?
And also, this is new.
Right. And this is new. And this is new. What I try to explain to all my patients is, when it comes to the vaccine versus COVID, it's always a risk versus benefits thing, right? So you have to look at the data behind the vaccines and what's there as far as safety and things like that, and what we know to be true about COVID from what we've seen and what we know. And I try to explain it just, we have to realize that, knowing what we know about both of those things, it's almost like which one would you rather, risk? You have to think about not only about yourself, but you have to think about your family. You have to think about, getting back to normalcy again. Feeling comfortable in public spaces, and that's usually, I think the things that I feel that gets them to think more, to think more beyond yourself. Think about your grandmother. Think about your grandfather, your aunts, your cousins. You have to really think about everybody in these situations.
Yeah. What's like the wildest thing somebody said to you about why they weren't going to get vaccinated?
So I think by this point I've heard it all. I've heard it all, actually.
I'm just curious about like how wild it got.
I've heard everything from the tracking, the microchips, the artificial intelligence, What else have I heard? I've heard, anything else you've heard? Yeah, I mean, I was in the clinic, and I heard the tracking. I even heard the one about, the becoming magnetized. I didn't think I was going to actually hear it in the clinic, but I did.
Yeah.
But I try to.
So when somebody says something that's really that extreme,
Yeah.
like what do you say to that?
Well, so I start off by taking it seriously, because sometimes some of my patients, they say these things, but sometimes they've actually been very serious about it. And what I've learned is that the biggest thing is I have to allow them to air out why they're saying these things. What is their reasoning behind it? Did they find it from a credible source? And then I allow them to explain to me what is their fear behind the vaccine. What is leading them not to trust wanting to take the vaccine. And then I take my time to try to educate them about how the vaccine works, what the data has shown behind the side effects, and what data has shown behind any potential other symptoms that you may get. Because I know that there has been a lot of talk about things such as, let's say, heart issues or blood clotting. But what data has shown is that out of the millions of people that have taken the vaccine, that has been a very minute number.
Yeah, same. I always start off by, I try to be very careful about making sure I'm not too pushy, because I understand that somebody doesn't want to come and feel like that they're being berated, So I always ask them first, where are you with the process of the COVID vaccine? Have you gotten it? Have you not gotten it? Are you still considering it? Are you on the fence? And they usually give me, an answer of something along the lines of, I'm just kind of waiting to, a little bit longer just to see, make sure that nothing happens and things like that. And I understand, but I always just try to emphasize to them is that, that I have had many patients that have come in that have said things that, that come in with COVID that have said, I was actually on my way to get my vaccine this Thursday, but then I started feeling sick and I came to the hospital and I ended up having testing positive for COVID, right? And that just happened way too frequently just to let an opportunity to really educate somebody go by, right? Because, I've seen the really worst of it too, and firsthand, and the worst thing I would want somebody to do is make a decision that could truly impact their life, that they might not even be aware how serious that decision is. So I try to also bring, the gravity of what the situation is to them too, right? I think that, kind of as in regards to what he was saying was that there are a lot of concerns as far as the safety and efficacy. But if you look at just in general, just like you were saying, out of the millions of people, those numbers for the events that do occur cannot always be directly attributed to the vaccine itself, because that's not quite how it works. And you look at the numbers that occur, they're always very extremely minute compared to the larger population that have received those vaccines.
For me, I tell my friends, hey, if I turn into Magneto, good for me, and if I don't, then you good, So right. So either way, it's a win for me. So that's how those conversations go with my friends, because it's an opportunity to really keep it real with your friends and really have frank conversations about what they're feeling. And so, like, hey, let me be the test dummy. But aside from that, I really liken the vaccine to driving a car. You want to get into an accident with your seatbelt on, or do you want to get into an accident with your seatbelt off? And so, just really trying to bring it down in terms that are really digestible for folks, because I think it's easy to talk about data. It's really easy to point to it but I think we really have to meet people where they are, and that's what I've done in a lot of conversations with my friends too. So.
You have to empower people with information, because I think educating people about the efficacy of vaccines and the vaccine in general, I think is important because, historically speaking, we've always been skeptical of things when it comes down to passing out shots and things like that. But I think this is a little bit different in the instance that this is a worldwide pandemic. And we've never experienced that as a human race, right? We weren't around when the bubonic plague hit, right, and all of those other things. And so now we're in a totally different time period, but we're in a technological age where information, things like the virus, sped around the world in seconds, which was just insane, you know. But I think it starts with education and dealing with the facts and making sure people know what exactly, you know, is going on with the vaccine, so that they can, you know, participate and get back to some state of normalcy.
I mean, so on that front, how much of it do you think is? I think that people just need to like know that people around them have been vaccinated. Like something I don't think we should like hide, and because one of the things that I think has been what made the virus feel so real to people was that you knew somebody who had it.
Right.
You knew somebody who got hostile. You knew somebody who passed. And so, you know, we even tried to, like on the state side, we tried to, you know, put in place some things where people could understand if they were exposed. Right. They downloaded the app called My COVID Alert, which you could download, which I got on both my work phone and my personal phone. That would just sort of, you can use your phone to let you know if you were coming into proximity with somebody who may have been exposed, which is important for your just like kind of mindfulness. I wonder, you know, just, I asked you about convincing people, but just, you know, is this something you kind of worn on your sleeve? Like, hey, I got vaccinated. I want you to get vaccinated too. Like, I'm just kind of curious because I understand the piece about not wanting to push people because because you don't want to turn them off. At the same time, you also want them to know that this is available for you too. You know? I
mean, I ain't gonna lie. I posted it on the gram. Just straight as soon as I covered up my information and whatnot, but I was on the gram with it, like.
The card?
Yeah, like, hey, you know, for real, the first day. And so, to your point though, that's kind of like how I was out there in terms of like letting people know. I don't think I was in a place where I'm like, you know how they say like, you can always tell somebody's vegan because, you know, they gonna always let you know they vegan. So I was, you know, they always let you know. So I wasn't at that place, but like when people would ask about it, I was never shy about it. And like I said, I posted it on my social media, stuff like that. And, you know, I got maybe like 1,000 followers or whatever. Nothing crazy, but enough for people to be like, oh, well, when they see Tone, they gonna know he vaccinated. So, you know.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's 1,000 more than zero, bro.
You know, I got my card in my pocket right now.
Right, look.
You know, I'm like, hey, you want to see it?
For real.
You know, I got it. It's here.
You're a teacher. I might laminate mine.
No, bro. When I tell you, it's laminated, it's copied, everything.
Right. I think for me, you know, not that death never felt real, but my mortality felt more like in my face. And so with this situation, it was like death can be a very real thing. And so it was scary. And I think for a lot of young people, you know, my expected lifespan, cool, I'm good for 40, 50 more years. I could be thinking about this at another point in time. But this really brought it into focus. And so for me, my motivations behind it is what I really tried to get, to try to really convey to other people. And I wasn't ashamed about, you know, getting vaccinated either. So was really happy to talk about it and really try to help, you know, convince people to do the same.
Yeah, I bet y'all can speak to this as medical professionals because like more than 90% of the people who are currently hospitalized with COVID-19 in Michigan right now are not vaccinated. Yeah. More than 90% of the people who are dying of COVID-19 right now are not vaccinated. It's not even comparable.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that you know I just well, I would hope that those that didn't get vaccinated wasn't just out of something that they heard on social media, because that's like the worst thing that I would never want to see any of my patients go through is that right there. But that is it. That is just it. Is that the vaccines have been very effective and they've been proven to be very effective. And it comes down to, again, kind of thinking about, again, not only yourself, but thinking about, again, your family. You're not only spreading virus to your family, but you don't want to put your family through, the grief of losing you as a loved one, right? I always tell, my patients that I would never suggest something to you that I would never suggest to my own family. And with that regard, my family has gotten vaccinated because we've kept them up to date about what their concerns were and things. But I would tell I would never suggest something to you that I wouldn't suggest to my own family. Okay, because I consider my patients as family. I would treat my patient as I would my own family. So when I look at you as a patient, I don't just see patient. I see, grandfather, father, I see aunt, I see uncle, I see cousin, I see brother, I see sister, right? Because that's what I think about. That's how I see it in my head. So I would never purposely mislead or misguide my patient or my family. And I see them all as one in that regard. Yeah. I feel that a lot of the fear that I've seen, especially with the patients that I treat, is more so a fear of the unknown. And for that reason, I try not to put heavy pressure on them, but I express to them what my concern is for them not getting the vaccine. What I tell them is that, we have this virus and we don't know all of what its long-term effects are. And if you were to get it now, I don't know what it could do to you. So I express to them that this is my concern for you. And I want them to be educated with credible sources about the vaccines. And just what was mentioned earlier, he said that, being a young person is, still in my 20s, and even knowing what I know, I still had an outlook on life that, okay, I have, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ahead of me. But then now to put it into perspective, now you have this Delta variant thing that everybody keep hearing about, which has shown to start affecting the younger population, often in their 20s. So with that being said, just because you're in your 20s and you might be healthy, that doesn't mean that you're exempt from this virus. The virus does not discriminate, So we have to find the best way to protect ourselves, which the best tool that we have right now are the vaccines that we currently have.
I know perfectly healthy people that died.
Yeah.
So, right. But I don't know anybody who was vaccinated that died.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's real because the vaccine is so easy to get now. I mean, I went to the TCF center and, drove through the garage and I was out within an hour. Both times it was just fast and efficient.
I feel like they're using like a smaller needle. Y'all can tell me that. Like the needle, I didn't even feel the needle.
The first time, second time I felt it.
Hey, look, that second time.
That second time.
No, that second shot was real. The first one was like, okay.
Yeah, that second one.
The second one was like, look, this is the real deal. Yeah. This is the vaccine.
It's working.
Right. Oh, you felt
That's true. Look, that's true.
I mean, it's something that simple though, right? Yep. Like the fact that like if somebody had a side effect, that could be evidence that it's actually doing its job.
Right. And honestly, I will say this is that I try to even stray away from even calling it a side effect. I try to call it an expected immune response.
It has a negative connotation.
When you say side
That's
effect,
real talk.
it
That's
gives
real
it a
talk. I
little
didn't
bit
think about that. That's real
of a
talk.
negative kind of connotation, but that's what I try to phrase it as. Yeah, and what I tell my patients is that if you choose to get the vaccine, what you could possibly experience is fevers, headaches, chills, body aches. But these are normal effects. This is what you would expect of someone that is developing an immune response. This is your body responding. So this is not something to be overly concerned about. So this is what I tell them.
It's like both the vaccine
and
is
I feel like
working
it
and your
varied,
body's working.
the immune response varied because my wife didn't have the same response that I had. And we both got we were in the car together getting the shot. So it was like, it was happening at the same time, but my response was way different than hers. So I also tell people, because that was a thing too, people were like, the effects of it, I heard people down bad. I'm like, it's going to vary depending on who how your body responds to it. So don't base it purely off of, everybody else, how they responded.
And if you're looking at the list of things that can happen to you, if you do get COVID as compared to what might happen to you if you get the vaccine, I'll go with the shorter list. I don't want to lose my sense of smell or my sense of taste or, feel like I got hit by a train. So give me that shorter list. And
So. And what's so powerful is, and it's sad at the same time, but if you look at the memorials that were created, so you look at what the city of Detroit did around Belle Isle and you saw all the images of people that we know and love. And, you know, I mean, just get the shot, because, I mean, you can see the effects and the number of people. If you look at during the inauguration, when they illuminated the National Mall, all of those lives lost. Yeah. And so, I mean, if it takes getting a shot and taking an hour out of your day 2 times, you got to do it. Because, I mean, you want to be alive and healthy to see this world through, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if I could sum it up, I would say the benefit of being vaccinated far outweighs the risk of getting the actual virus and not being vaccinated. So the benefit is so much greater.
100%. I mean, so I'm sure y'all doing it. I'm talking to people every single day about it, because I still know people who aren't vaccinated, like we all do. Truth is, right? And so I just feel like, you know, all those people are one conversation away from making that choice, though. They all are. And I just think all of us, from our different experiences, from our different perspectives, from our different roles that we play in the community, like, I think it's our responsibility to have those conversations, to make sure they happen. Because I don't want nobody else to die of COVID-19. I don't want to know anybody else died of COVID-19. I don't want nobody else in Michigan die of COVID-19. Right? I get them numbers every day. Right? And so I don't want to see that. But the empowering thing is that we do have the power to change that in our community. And that's what's up. Yeah. That's what's up. Appreciate y'all. No doubt. No doubt. And my hair look good. Crispy, right? Crispy, right?